tight, I'll be here with you all night. My mind, I'm getting lost in your eyes. I'm broken when you're not around. Unspoken words I'm screaming out. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Now, can you hear me now? 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 Hold tight, I'll be here with you all night. My mind, I'm getting lost in your eyes. I'm broken when you're not around. Unspoken words I'm screaming out. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Now, can you hear me now? Can
The regular meeting of the Aurora City Council for Monday, March 8th, 2021 is called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor, could we do the announcement?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and do the announcement first for the call-in line.
All right, thank you. Good evening. The City Council welcomes feedback from residents at council meetings on both matters appearing on the agenda and during public invited to be heard. For those watching on Channel 8, please call 855-695-3475. And when connected, and for those already connected, press *3 to get in the queue to speak. Do not forget to press the star before the *3. You'll hear a prompt confirming you are on the line to speak to an operator and then be able to continue listening to the meeting until the operator comes on to take down your information and the agenda item you wish to speak on. Residents who would like to speak on a specific agenda item and have not already been screened, please press *3 to sign up before that item is called by the clerk. If you'd like to speak on public invited to be heard, please press *3 immediately to get in the queue. Those that press *3 after we begin public invited to be heard will be placed on the public invited to be heard portion at the end of the meeting. Depending on the volume, it may take a few minutes to be connected to the operator, so please be patient. As long as you've heard the prompt after pressing *3 and can still hear the meeting, you do not need to press it again. The operator will get to you as soon as possible. Thank you.
Would the clerk please now call the roll?
Mayor Kaufman.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen.
Here.
Councilmember Berzins.
Here.
Councilmember Coombs.
Present.
Councilmember Gardner.
Here.
Councilmember Gruber.
Here.
Councilmember Hiltz. Councilmember Hiltz.
Here.
Okay, got you. Thank you. Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Johnston.
Here.
Councilmember Marcano.
Present.
And Councilmember Murphy.
Present.
There's a quorum.
With Governor Polis last Friday on the west steps of the Capitol on Friday evening, it was the year anniversary of the first individual who came down with COVID in the state of Colorado, and we've lost a very significant number of people very tragically since that time. So we're a little over a year now of experiencing COVID, and so I would like us all to take a moment of silence to remember those who have been lost due to COVID. Thank you. And now would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? The Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for
which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Executive session update. We discussed matters related to water, to economic development, and to an expansion of ARTA. With that, public invited to be heard. Clerk, do you need time for that, to set up for that?
Mayor, do we need to do the approval minutes first or no?
Oh, I'm so.
Okay.
Approval of minutes for December 21st, 2020. A motion?
Motion to approve the minutes of December 21st.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by, is it Councilmember Berzins? To approve the minutes of December 21st. I have one change on page 21, where it says Mayor Kaufman stated it was not a proposal, and council was discussing a council member Marcano's proposal. Actually, it's Mayor Kaufman stated this. I mean, I know it sounds minor, but if you read the part above it, it will make sense. So I just want to change that stated it to stated this was not a proposal. Is there any objection to that? Seeing none, are there further amendments to the minutes from December 21st? Councilmember Coombs.
Just the motion was Lawson, not or the second was Lawson, not Bergen.
Okay, stand corrected. Councilmember Lawson seconded the motion to approve the minutes for December 21st, 2020. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano,
Yes.
Councilmember Berzins,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
and Councilmember Hiltz.
Yes.
The item passes.
We have a motion to approve the minutes for January 25th, 2021.
Mayor, so moved.
It's moved by Councilmember Gruber, seconded by
Coombs.
Councilmember Coombs to approve the minutes of January 25th, 2021. Discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the minutes from approval of the minutes from January 25th, 2021?
Mayor Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Berzins,
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs.
Yes.
The motion passes.
I need a motion for the approval of the minutes from February 8th, 2021.
Mayor, move to approve the minutes from February 8th.
It's moved by Councilmember Gruber. Oh, well, why are we getting that feedback? Moved by Councilmember Gruber, seconded by seconded by Councilmember Murillo to approve the minutes of February 8th, 2021. Discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll on the approval of the minutes from February 8th, 2021?
Mayor Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Councilmember Berzins,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Public invited to be heard.
Thank you, Mayor. Our first speaker tonight is Judy. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Council. I wanted to start off with talking a little bit about the Eliza McLean report that came from your request. The first thing I'd like to say about that is that I'm a little unnerved by the fact that the group writing the report never went physically to the site where the incident took place. It seems like they should have at least visited that if they wanted to complete a report that was accurate. The other things regarding the report is nowhere in the report does it ever say that police or fire personnel murdered Eliza McLean, yet that is the narrative that seems to be out there going around and around, that someone from the police department and members of the fire department need to be held accountable for that. Also, with regard to what came through the report, with regard to with the coroner's report, it talks about one of Elijah McLean's heart blood vessels was 25% the size of a normal one, which the coroner listed as contributing to his death. Another thing that was listed as contributing to the death was intense physical exertion caused by his decision to resist police. But nowhere in there does it indicate that police officers caused the death through the carotid control hold. The other thing that I'd like to talk about with regard to the coroner's report is the therapeutic levels of ketamine. The therapeutic levels range from 1.0 to 6.3. It appears that the level in Elijah McLean's system was 1.4. So that would indicate that he did not die of a ketamine overdose. And that is another narrative that keeps flying around out there, that he was overdosed with ketamine. But that doesn't appear to be levels of overdose. The other thing I wanted to talk about with regard to that incident was how the group came to talk about the crime statistics in the area. Officers who regularly work in that area know that that convenience store that Mr. McLean was walking away from had been robbed multiple times. Now, when in their statistics where they talk about the crime rates, that included headquarters. All the people who call reports into the police department and those reports that get taken at the front desk are included in that crime rate. So that would skew the crime statistics for that entire area. So there is a bigger crime rate in the area that Mr. McLean was walking around in than is indicated in that report. The only other thing I really have to say at this point is that I think the city and the police department need to stop pushing forward the narrative that Elijah McLean was murdered.
Thank you. Next up is Crystal. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Go ahead, yes.
Okay. Hi, thanks for allowing me to speak this evening. I am also here to comment on the Elijah McLean case, and I'm just going to do a brief introduction of who I am. I was raised in Aurora pretty much my entire young life. I attended Aurora Public Schools, K through 12. I'm now in my 30s. I'm a nurse, I'm a mother, I'm a wife. I support individual justice and want nothing more for justice to be served when it's deserved. I'm a believer in science and facts, and while I have a compassionate and empathetic heart, I'm having a hard time with this McLean case. So I'm here today in response to the false narratives and the lies that are being told. Our police department is being targeted. I've reviewed the body footage in its entirety and keeping up with all of the news. And the facts just don't support the belief that Elijah McLean was murdered by the APD or emergency personnel. And like the previous commenters had said about the coroner's report, while the carotid maneuver was used, there's no indication that there was any trauma as a result from these officers' actions. These officers have been cleared by both the department and the district attorney. The coroner's report showed that McLean didn't have any lethal dose of ketamine in his system, so that's clearing emergency response teams. So I guess I'm just here. I just felt like I needed to say, like, it's absolutely devastating and an absolute tragedy what happened to McLean. It was a perfect storm, a series of very unfortunate events. As Judy had mentioned, the area that this took place is statistically proven to be high in crime. The convenience store to which he was walking from, the history of being robbed. The call was made by a concerned citizen, and given all the facts, the APD had every right to contact this person to make sure he wasn't one of the bad guys. So isn't this what we want from our law enforcement, to make sure that the bad guys are not in our neighborhoods causing trouble? I mean, of course, McLean was not even close, but Being a police officer, you do not have superpowers to know this information ahead of time. So there's a disconnect that I've seen, like an unreal expectation between our citizens and law enforcement. And I guess we just need to decide, do we want them to protect us, or do we want them to leave us alone and not be proactive in keeping our communities safe? And we can't have both. So as I said before, this is a very sad situation, but the people continue to believe this lie, and they just should not be accepting this unfounded allegation that Elijah McClain was murdered. So thank you. Thank you for your time. And
All right, next is Suzanne. Go ahead, Suzanne, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, just quickly, I wanted to recognize the council members on the council who identify as women on International Women's Day. And I also want to speak to the Elijah McClain case. Elijah McClain was not murdered. He died. There is a huge factual, legal, and emotional difference. Well, in the end, we found out that Mr. McClain was an innocent young man and his death was a terrible tragedy. There is no way those officers would have known anything about him by just looking at him. This is not the movie Minority Report, it's real life. They didn't know him. Convenience stores are frequent targets of robbers. Convenience store robbers often wear a mask to cover their face. Convenience store robbers often carry and display handguns or fake guns that look real to intimidate the clerks. This is a group of data that police officers frequently encounter together. Colfax and Billings is not a safe neighborhood. It isn't the worst, but it is well known to any officer on the department who has ever worked patrol that there are definitely criminals in that area and that those convenience stores are historically targeted by robbers. So the officers that night got a call of a suspicious person near a convenience store wearing a mask. That is a suspicious person. And when they went to contact the person matching the description, that person refused to cooperate with them. Now, in retrospect, we understand why. However, there was no way they would know that at the time. If officers were trained to just let people walk away from them whenever they are contacting someone as a suspicious person, hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of crimes would not have been interrupted and wanted persons not arrested for warrants for everything from shoplifting to murder. The ignorance of the general public and the hate-fueled emotional hysteria of socialists have made a mockery of the truth in this case. And when I say ignorant, I mean untrained, inexperienced, and misinformed. The public does not generally understand perception-reaction time. The public does not generally interact with criminals on a regular basis and therefore doesn't understand all that goes into assessing a given suspicious situation. The public doesn't understand how body-worn camera video is not an exact record, and there can be problems with timing on sound and video framing. The public doesn't generally spend 6 months in training or has any experience to use as a point of reference for reviewing police activity. The public doesn't have the time to do the research to educate themselves, and that is completely understandable. But the public, therefore, cannot influence the decisions of police leadership or elected officials, for that matter, who should understand the width and breadth of things the public does not know. The truth is that sometimes God calls someone home at a time and place that seems particularly tragic. But that doesn't mean that anyone did anything intentionally wrong or even acted in error.
Ma'am, your
This has
time is up.
entirely been a trial in the court of ignorant public opinion, and these officers have been villainized without merit.
Thank you. Next up is Doug. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
I want to thank the City Council for commissioning a recently released report. The 3 conclusions that can be drawn from the report are that the police did not use any excessive force, the firefighters did not overdose Elijah on ketamine, and nobody murdered Elijah McClain. According to the coroner, Elijah most likely died because he had a heart condition, and the exertion he expended fighting the cops caused him to have a medical crisis. And that was his decision. If he hadn't chosen to fight the cops, he wouldn't have died from his heart condition. But because he fought the cops, if he'd survived, he would have been arrested for multiple felonies. He wasn't a sweet angel. He was high in marijuana and possibly LSD, which he'd used in the past. LSD couldn't be proven due to medical procedures after his death, but his extraordinary strength and drive to continue fighting indicates that he was profoundly altered by drugs. Elijah McClain decided to fight the cops for reasons known only to him. During this, he tried to disarm a police officer. The police were restrained in the use of force against him. There was no allegation in the recently commissioned report that the police used excessive force. There were no marks on his neck to indicate that the carotid hold injured him in any way. The police did not murder Elijah McClain. After the firefighters started treating Elijah McClain, he was given ketamine to calm him down. The amount of drugs in the system after this dose was at the bottom of the clinical range. He didn't die of a drug overdose. He died of a heart condition. The firefighters did not murder Elijah McClain. The lie that Elijah McClain was murdered continues to victimize his family and the city. Don't spread this lie. Don't entertain the lie. The city leadership needs to push back against this lie with all their effort because Elijah McClain was not murdered. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jennifer. Jennifer, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm calling regarding the Elijah McClain case. One of my main points is that if the city is unhappy, if the city council is unhappy with the 8-second response time of Officer Richard, then I would like them to request that they go to the City of Aurora's Shoot, Don't Shoot virtual scenario training. I think it would be illustrative to them as to how long it takes to truly make a decision and how easy it is to make a mistake as to whether someone is or is not a threat. According to the coroner's report, there was no trauma to Mr. McClain's neck regarding the carotid hold. There was an intense physical exertion that Mr. McClain participated in that contributed to his cause of death. And one of his heart blood vessels was 25% the size of a normal heart vessel, which contributed to his death. Nowhere in the recently released report commissioned by this body was there mentioned that Elijah McClain was murdered by anyone. No police or there is no claim anywhere in the report that police or fire personnel murdered Mr. McClain. Officers have been cleared by both the department and the district attorney. They did not murder Elijah McClain. Officers who work in the area of Colfax and Billings are aware that that convenience store has been robbed multiple times. In fact, I believe one of the officers in the Billings Street is Murder Street because of how many crimes that take place on that street. There is rampant undocumented street crime in the neighborhood focused around drug and alcohol use, mentally homeless people who frequent the area. The crime rate heat map included in the report is deceptive. Some might wonder if it is deliberately deceptive. The data set includes police headquarters, which shows up as the most crime-ridden location in the city. That is due to the fact that reports will frequently be generated with the headquarters as the address for administrative reasons. The inclusion of this address skews the relative crime rate. Again, some might wonder if this was done deliberately. Removing these numbers shows that the crime rate in the area of Mr. McClain's arrest are very high. The sloppiness of including this address in the report's consideration of crime-related data makes you wonder if the rest of the report includes such sloppiness.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Writing the report. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. That concludes the people signed up for public invited to be heard.
Let's see. The question before us now is the adoption of the agenda. Can I have a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
Mayor Dave Gruber, so moved.
It's been moved by Councilmember Gruber, seconded by
Bergen.
seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Bergen to adopt the agenda. The discussion, and I have an amendment that I would like to move the last public invited to be heard. that I would like to move item 20A and 20B after item 21. And item 20A is report by the mayor. Item 20B is reports by the council. That will give, if a council member wishes to comment on any of the public invited to be heard, that would give them an opportunity to do so.
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem.
I object to that because we have, as part of our general business of doing council business, reports are done at the end of the meeting. And we have public invited to be heard at the beginning. We have public invited to be heard during any single agenda item. And then we have an additional public invited to be heard at the end. But reports should be part of the general business of the council.
Hey, first, there has to be a second for my amendment, or it fails by virtue of not having a second. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilmember Coombs. Further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the amendment to put item number 20A and 20B after item number 21?
Mayor Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilmember Burzins,
No.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
No.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
No.
Councilmember Gruber.
No.
Okay, the motion passes with 4 noes.
Mary, you're on mute.
Oh.
Mayor Dave Gruber, I'd like to make a comment.
Councilmember Gruber.
I would like to postpone our vote on 11G, which is the military family open enrollment resolution. The resolution has undergone significant change and it has been introduced to the Education Committee. I would like to modify the resolution so it matches the amendment and then bring it up at our May 24th meeting.
Is there any objection? Seeing none, then
Mayor?
that will, sorry.
I just want to clarify, May 24th, not March, May?
Thank you. It's March 24th.
March 24th.
Well, I mean, May was fine as well. It just seemed very far away for a quick comment. Okay, thank you.
I think the legislature would be out of session. Of course, I don't know this year.
Yeah, and no objection, just clarifying.
Okay. No objection, then what item is that? I'm sorry. Item number 11G. Item number 11G will then be on the calendar for March 24th. Are there further amendments? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the agenda as amended. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Kaufman,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen, Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes. Sorry, this keeps bouncing on me.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Burzins,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Next item before us is the adoption of the consent calendar, item number 10A through F. A motion?
Mayor, move to approve items 10A through F.
It's been moved by Councilmember Gruber to approve items number 10A through 10F. Second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Councilmember Marcano. Discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the consent calendar item number 10A through 10F.
Mayor Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilmember Burzins,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz.
Yes.
The motion passes. And Mayor, should we vote on item 9A for the reconsideration of the resolution?
Oh, I'm sorry. Will the clerk please read the title of item number 9A?
9A is the reconsideration of Resolution 2020-24 to suspend certain council rules.
Motion.
Mayor, move to approve item 9A.
Been moved by Councilmember Gruber, seconded by
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Connor to approve item number 9A. Discussion. Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of item number 9A?
Councilmember Hiltz,
Yes.
Councilmember Burzins,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
and Councilmember Murillo.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Now 7:02. The council will stand in recess until 7:07 p.m., giving staff time to set up the call-in line. We are now in recess. Council is now back in session. Public invited to be heard.
Mayor?
Mayor?
Roger, do you have anybody on the line?
Public invited to be heard.
I think we already did public invited to be heard.
Okay, there's not a, okay,
There's nobody on the line for that, Mayor, right now.
okay. So we have another one listed. Resolutions, will the clerk please read the title of item number 11A?
11A is the intergovernmental agreement between Aurora and Colorado Department of Transportation, Resolution 2021-10, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, approving the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Aurora and the Colorado Department of Transportation, CDOT, for funding of the Highline Canal Trail Project.
Motion? Motion.
Mayor, move to approve 11A.
Moved by Councilmember Gruber, seconded by
Second.
Councilmember Marcano to approve item number 11A. Discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll on
Councilmember Berzins?
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs?
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner?
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano?
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston?
Yes.
And Councilmember Gruber?
Yes.
The motion passes.
will the clerk now please read the title of item number 11B?
Item 11B is Resolution 2021-11, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, approving the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Aurora and Arapahoe County regarding Gun Club Road and Alameda Avenue improvements.
Motion?
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem.
motion to approve 11B.
Been moved by Mayor Pro Tem.
Johnston?
Okay, it's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Bergen, seconded by Councilmember Johnson to approve item number 11B. Discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of item number 11B?
Councilmember Gardner?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen?
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano?
Yes.
Councilmember Berzins?
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz?
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs?
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber?
Yes.
And Councilmember Lawson?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Will the clerk now please read the title of item number 11C?
11C is Resolution 2021-12, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, approving an intergovernmental agreement for water delivery between the City of Westminster, Colorado, and the City of Aurora, Colorado, acting by and through its utility enterprise.
Motion?
Mayor,
Councilmember Marcano.
move to approve 11C.
It's been moved by Councilmember Marcano, seconded by
Coombs?
Councilmember Coombs to approve item number 11C. Discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of item number 11C?
Councilmember Coombs?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen?
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano?
Yes.
Councilmember Berzins?
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber?
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston?
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Will the clerk now please read the title of item number 11D?
11D is Resolution 2021-13, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, expressing the Aurora City Council support for the intergovernmental agreement between Adams County, Colorado Legal Services, the cities of Aurora, Thornton, Federal Heights, Bratton, Commerce City, Westminster, and North Glen in the city and county of Broomfield regarding contributions toward a landlord-tenant legal service program.
Motion,
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
move to approve 11D.
Moved by Councilmember Coombs, seconded by
Second.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Seconded by Councilmember Hiltz. Moved by
Murillo.
Councilmember. It's moved by Councilmember Coombs, seconded by Councilmember Murillo. To approve item number 11D. Discussion.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, and I want to say that although this is a good program, I will not be supporting it because I don't believe in using taxpayer dollars for legal services to another organization.
Further discussion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
can we have staff briefly describe what the program does, please?
Jessica Prosser.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a brief overview of this item. Again, an intergovernmental agreement with the different jurisdictions within Adams County to provide eviction prevention at the county level through the court system. This IGA covers the costs of trained attorney and paralegals to work with folks to provide different options for folks to help either prolong eviction or prevent eviction. And there's been about 68 households that have been served in Aurora over the past few years. And so this is continuing those services as described.
Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption
Mayor,
of.
I have a question.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, can you tell us if we have a rental assistance program and how much monies have gone towards that program to help with evictions?
Sure. So, Councilmember Bergen, we do have a rental assistance program that we did start back in June of 2020. We've used a variety of different funding sources. I can't recall the numbers exactly offhand, but I believe we're up around about 680 different households that have been served within Aurora with a few $1 million and maybe around $3 million served at this point. And that is ongoing. And we're getting ready to work with the state as well. So if folks do need rental assistance or landlords have tenants that have not been able to pay, that program is available and ongoing, and the information is on our website.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Further discussion. Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of item number 11D. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Burzins?
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz?
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs?
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano?
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen?
No.
Councilmember Gardner?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston?
Yes.
And Councilmember Murillo?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Will the clerk now please read the title to item number 11E?
11E is Resolution 2021-14, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado to fund the Comitas Crisis Center, Inc. for the year 2021 using marijuana sales tax funds.
Motion.
Mayor, move to approve 11E.
Moved by Councilmember Gruber, seconded by
Second.
Councilmember Coombs to approve item number 11E. Discussion. Seeing none, would clerk please call the roll on the adoption of item number 11E?
Councilmember Lawson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes.
Councilmember Johnston?
Yes.
Councilmember Burzins?
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner?
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano?
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Will the clerk now please read the title of item number 11F?
11F is Resolution 2021-15, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, expressing the Aurora City Council support for the 2021 funding of Aurora Comprehensive Community Mental Health Center, Inc.'s homelessness prevention and assistance programs.
Motion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
move to approve 11F.
It's been moved by Councilmember Coombs, seconded by
Second.
Councilmember McConnell to approve item number 11F. Discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of item number 11F?
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz, and Councilmember Berzins.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Will the clerk now please read the, item number 11G has been postponed until March 24th during the regular meeting 2021. Will the clerk now please read the title item number 11H?
11H is Resolution 2021-17, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, approving the First Amendment to Intergovernmental Agreement between the City of Aurora, Arapahoe County, and South Aurora Regional Improvement Authority regarding Gun Club Road improvements.
Mayor,
Motion, Mayor Pro Tem Bergen.
motion to approve 11H.
Been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Bergen, seconded by
Gruber.
Second by Councilmember Gruber to approve item number 11H. Discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of item number 11H?
Councilmember Hiltz?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston?
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson?
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano?
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen?
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs?
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber?
Yes.
Councilmember Berzins?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Will the clerk please explain item number 11? I understand it has to be divided in two parts.
Yes, Mayor. Item number 11I is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, amending the contribution rate to the Fire Police Pension Association Defined Benefit Plan administered by the FPPA for reentry firefighters and establishing the contribution rate for the FPPA Hybrid Plan and FPPA Money Purchase Plan. This resolution was split into two separate resolutions. It was originally one. So there's going to be one that applies to reentry firefighters in the statewide defined benefit plan, and the other resolution that applies to all other firefighters. If we could have a motion for the first resolution to reentry firefighters in the statewide defined benefit plan.
Now, let me ask the question of the city attorney, and that the fact is that we haven't noticed this earlier. Could you explain the legal ramifications of that?
And it's contained in our, both resolutions are contained in your packet. So they're both there. They're both showing you're simply splitting the vote into two pieces.
Okay. And so the clerk just read the title for 11I. Okay. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Motion on 11I.
Mayor Dave Gruber, move to approve 11I Part A.
I'm sorry.
If it's broken into two parts.
Is that acceptable with the clerk and the city attorney?
Yes, with the city clerk it is.
11A, 11,
11I Part A.
11I Part A, 11I Part B. Okay. Motion on 11I Part A.
Mayor, so moved.
It's been moved by Councilmember Gruber, seconded by
Bergen.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen to approve 11I A, Part A. Discussion. Seeing none, the question before us then is the adoption of 11I Part A. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz,
Yes.
Councilmember Burzins,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
and Councilmember Marcano.
Yes.
The motion passes for the first resolution, 11IA.
Will clerk now please read the title of item number 11I Part B?
So 11I Part B would be, it's the same resolution, but this one applies to all other firefighters versus the one that you just voted on applies to reentry firefighters.
Motion.
Mayor,
Councilmember McConnell.
move to approve 11IB.
It's moved by Councilmember McConnell, seconded by
Coombs.
Councilmember Coombs to approve item 11I Part B. Discussion. Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of item number 11I Part B?
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Burzins,
Yes.
and Councilmember Marcano.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Will the clerk now please read the title of item number 11J?
Item 11J is a resolution 2021-19, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado to award city funding from the city's homelessness program to the Aurora Flexible Housing Fund program for 2021 at the current funding levels.
Motion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
move to approve.
It's been moved by Councilmember Coombs, seconded by Councilmember Lawson to approve item number 11J. Discussion.
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen.
Yes, in our presentation that was given during the study session, we had discussion on data and outcome measures. I just was wondering, when would we get that report, please?
Jessica Prosser.
So Councilmember Bergen, we are changing the program up quite a bit based on the audit report and findings. And so we can certainly provide you numbers from this past year, from 2020. It's going to not be as accurate because of COVID, and we have been doing rental assistance and other things during this year, but we can certainly get you some data from this past year. We have had the program on hold since about October due to the rental assistance and making changes to the program. So the accurate data will probably be reflective of 2021 once we reopen the application after this is approved.
Okay, so we can get data for the portion that you have for 2020, and then in 2021, would we get it in December?
Yes, we can do that at the end of the year. We'll be absent a couple months, but certainly we can provide an update even before then as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
The time is now 7:28. The council will stand in.
Call for the vote.
Mayor, we haven't voted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, no. Okay, further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of item number 11J. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Hiltz.
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Councilmember Burzins,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen.
Yes.
The motion passes.
The time is now 7:29. The council will stand in recess until 7:34.
Roger, can you do the announcement for the call-in line, please?
Yes, thank you. Residents who would like to speak on an ordinance and have not already been screened, please press *3 now and before the item is called by the clerk. So if you're in line and would like to speak on an ordinance, please press *3 now. For those watching on Channel 8, please call 855-695-3475. Be connected and then press *3. Don't forget the star. Council will take a short 5-minute break to allow for additional speakers to sign up. Again, be patient and stay on the line until an operator is able to take down your information. As long as you hear the prompt after pressing *3 and can still hear music hold, you are in line to speak to an operator. Thank you.
The regular meeting of the Aurora City Council is reconvened. Will the clerk please read the title of item number 14A?
Item 14A is ordinance 2021-08, an ordinance of the City Code of the City of Aurora, Colorado, adding an article to Chapter 2 of the City Code pertaining to the regulations of lobbyists.
Motion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Lawson.
I move to approve 14A.
It's been moved by Councilmember Lawson, seconded by
Second.
Councilmember Marcano to approve item number 14A. Discussion.
Mayor.
Councilmember Lawson.
Mayor, we had a pretty robust discussion about this at the study session last week, but I'm bringing this forward because this adds another transparency tool in our transparency toolbox that will allow the public to know how we're making our decision making, who's in our city, how we're being influenced, and I think that's really important in terms of gaining more public trust with our government, and also
real close to the steering wheel. I'm thinking.
And okay. And actually allowing the public to know what kind of lobbying activities are being influenced by us on council. So I hope that my colleagues will support this this ordinance. Thank you.
Further discussion?
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Mayor Pro Tem Bergen.
What did we get a second?
Was there? I'm sorry. Was there a second?
Yes, Mayor, that was me.
Oh, Councilmember McConnell was the second. That's right.
Okay. Just regarding the 501(c)(3)s and 4s. So I just want to be clear. If it's a nonprofit that is lobbying us for money for a program, they would have to register, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Lawson.
Further discussion. Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of item number 14A. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Coombs?
Yes.
Councilmember Berzins?
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson?
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano?
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston?
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber?
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner?
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Will clerk now please read the title of item number 14B?
Item 14B is ordinance 2021-09, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, amending Article 2 of Section 130 of the City Code relating to exempting menstrual care products from sales and use tax.
Motion. Councilmember Hiltz.
Motion to approve 14B.
It's been moved by Councilmember Hiltz, seconded by
Second, Gardner.
Councilmember Gardner to approve item number 14B. Discussion? I see Councilmember Hiltz.
I was just going to say this did not have a robust discussion at study session, so I don't have anything to add other than I think this is a good day to be having this conversation. So thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of item number 14B. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Gardner?
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson?
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber?
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz?
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen?
Yes.
Councilmember Berzins?
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano?
Yes, sorry.
Councilmember Johnston?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Will the clerk now please read the title of item number 14C?
Item 14C is ordinance 2021-10 for an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, amending Chapter 26, adding Article 3 referred to as temporary caps on fees for food delivery and other related matters.
Motion?
Mayor.
Councilmember Gardner.
Motion to approve item 14C.
Moved by Councilmember Gardner, seconded by
Coombs?
Councilmember Coombs to approve item number 14C. Discussion?
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen.
Yes, I support this. Just a question on, is there an end date? Oh, it says June 30th, correct? Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, question before us is the adoption of item number 14C. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes, did you get that?
yes, thank you. Councilmember Hiltz,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano,
Yes.
Councilmember Burzins,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
and Councilmember Murillo.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Will the clerk now please read the title of item number 15A?
Item 15A is ordinance 2021-07, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Aurora amending Article 4 of Section 130 relating to the modification of the exemption for long-term lodging.
Motion.
Mayor, move to approve 15A.
It's moved by Councilmember Gruber, seconded by
Second.
Councilmember Marcano to approve item number 15A. Discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of item number 15A?
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Burzins,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz. The item passes.
Clerk, now please read the title of item number 18A.
Item 18A is a reconsideration of Resolution 2020-22, review of the powers granted to the city manager by Resolution 2020-22.
Motion.
Mayor, move to approve.
It's been moved by Council Member Coombs, seconded by
Second.
Councilmember Marcano to approve item number 18A. Discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of item number 18A?
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano,
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz.
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
and Councilmember Burzins.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Clerk, now please read the title of item number 19A.
Item 19A is consideration to reappoint 2 members to the Planning and Zoning Commission and schedule interviews for 1 vacancy.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen.
Yes, motion to reappoint Esther Tercius and Gail Jetchik to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Further nominations? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of
Mayor,
item
I'd like
number.
to second that.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Bergen, seconded by Councilmember Gruber to approve item number 19A. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of item number 19A?
Mayor Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz.
Yes.
And Councilmember Burzins.
Yes.
The motion passes to reappoint Esther and Gail to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Clerk, now please read the title of item number 19B.
Item 19B is consideration to appoint 1 member to the Aurora Commission for Seniors.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen.
Motion to appoint George Bain to the Aurora Commission for Seniors.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Bergen, second by Councilmember Coons, to appoint George Bain to the Aurora Commission for Seniors. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of item number 19B?
Mayor Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilmember Berzins,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano, Councilmember Marcano, I think you're muted.
Yes.
Thank
Sorry.
you. Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz,
Yes. Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs.
Yes.
The motion passes to appoint George Bain to the Aurora Commission for Seniors.
Clerk, now please read the title of item number 19C.
Item 19C is consideration to appoint one member to the Aurora Fox Arts Center Advisory Board.
Motion.
Mayor,
Councilmember McConnell.
move to appoint Judy Josso to the Aurora Fox Advisory Board.
Second. Is there a second?
Mayor.
It's been moved by Councilmember McConnell, seconded by Councilmember Coombs. Discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of item number 19C?
Mayor Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Hiltz, Councilmember Marcano,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo, Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Berzins,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
and Councilmember Johnston.
Yes.
The motion passes to appoint Judy to the Aurora Fox Arts Center Advisory Board.
Clerk, now please read the title of item number 19D.
Item 19D is removal of council appointees to boards and commissions and removal of civil service appointees. And Mayor, we do have one individual who is in line to speak for this in the call-in line.
Very well, but let's have a motion first, please.
Mayor,
Councilmember Gerber.
I hereby move the removal of Commissioner Harold Johnson from the Civil Service Commission as a consequence of falsifying information on his application and during his interview for the position.
Second. Is there a second?
Second, Gardner.
It's been moved by Councilmember Gruber, second by Councilmember Gardner to approve item number 19D. The call-in, public invited to be heard.
One moment, Roger, you're unmuted now.
And you have 3 minutes. Go ahead. Hello, Jan, are you muted on your phone? You are live.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yes. Mr. Johnson was unanimously approved to serve on the Aurora Civil Service Commission. I've had the opportunity to hear from Mr. Johnson, do some research and learn more about him, and I believe that he should be allowed to serve his full term in the Aurora Civil Service Commission.
All right, thank you.
Further discussion?
Mayor Dave Gruber.
Councilmember Gruber.
So the fundamental issue is that the members of the Civil Service Commission must be beyond, their integrity and character must be beyond reproach. And that's where we have an issue here. So during the interview process for candidates, we were not aware that Mr. Johnson had been terminated by his previous employer, the Denver Fire Department. So what happened is that on his resume or on his application, under employment, he listed that he was retired from the Denver Fire Department. And then during questioning, he was asked specifically, and in response to a question by Councilmember Coombs, he said that as a Black man who tested for my position with the Denver Fire Department, when I retired, I left with the rank of captain. That was demonstrated and demonstratively not true because he did not retire, he was terminated. Furthermore, during other questions by other council members, Mr. Johnson, again, missed the opportunity to clarify the fact that he didn't retire and that he was terminated. What I would like to do, I think it's important for the public to understand that Mr. Johnson went through a major process with the city of Denver, city and county of Denver. And the city and county of Denver came up with a finding, and we're not going to debate that finding tonight. That's not our position. But it is important, I think, for the city council and for the public to understand why I'm bringing this forward. This information was made available to me after the meeting where we nominated him. And by the way, I'd like to mention that he was nominated and he was elected onto the council, or onto the commission unanimously. So once this information came to light, I apologize for not knowing it sooner, but I believe that the only thing we can do is take action to remove him. So this letter was from Christopher Lujan, Deputy Director of the Department of Public Safety of the City and County of Denver. It's a departmental order of disciplinary action for Harold Johnson, who at the time was a captain in the classified service on the Denver Fire Department. Captain Johnson, this is before the Deputy Director of the Department of Safety to approve, disapprove, or modify the Chief of the Denver Fire Department's recommendation involving you. On 7 July 2015, the Chief of the Denver Fire Department tendered his recommendation of final disciplinary action, where he determined that you should be terminated from employment with the Denver Fire Department and the City and County of Denver. The basis for Chief Tade's recommendation is that you violated several of the Denver Fire Department Code of Conduct rules, guidelines, and directives when you, 1, dangerously compromised the safety of others in the department through the negligent performance of duties, 2, exhibited extremely offensive, lewd, lascivious, and disrespectful communication to staff, and 3, lied to internal affairs about a firefighter's request for representative from her direct supervisor in a meeting that you ordered with her. In Chief Tade's recommendations, he found that you engaged in egregious misconduct that resulted in the violation of 13 departmental rules for which the appropriate penalty shall be termination. Pursuant to my review of all of the facts of the case, the verbal and written statements made by you and other witnesses, and the evidence collected by the department, I find by the preponderance of evidence that you did violate 13 departmental rules, and based on the seriousness of your actions, a penalty of termination is appropriate. So again, I don't think it's appropriate for us to debate his termination. I've spoken with Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Johnson claims that these events didn't happen and that he was treated unfairly by the city and county of Denver. And I think that for those that are interested, if you Google his name at the Denver Fire Department, you'll see several articles that have been written about him and about what the accusations are. My point is that we do not have the personnel records. We do not have the ability to call witnesses. And furthermore, it is not the responsibility of the Aurora Council to determine whether or not a decision from the city and county of Denver was made appropriately. What we are responsible for is identifying whether or not someone misled or lied on their, first off, on their application to the city, and second, in their verbal testimony to the city. In both these cases, I believe, well, it's not I believe, Mr. Johnson did, in fact, misrepresent how he left the city and county of Denver, and I believe that that greatly affected the vote for him.
Further discussion?
Mayor.
Councilmember Johnston.
Thank you, Mayor. I will not be supporting Councilmember Gruber's proposal to remove Mr. Johnson. When this first came to light, I said that it was important to hear from Mr. Johnson, hear his side of the situation, and get that information. We do not have on our application if you have been terminated. We do not have if you've been disciplined. When I'm looking for a civil service commissioner, I want a person like Mr. Johnson who has the experience of being a civil service employee. And, you know, we can talk about reforms and changes that we need to make to our department, to our recruitment, to all of those processes. And when Mr. Johnson interviewed, he interviewed and was the top applicant. He was my number one choice. And I'm not going back to change that. I think that if we really want to make changes in the type of people that we get into the academies, on the discipline hearings and all of that, that we need to have someone with Mr. Johnson's experience. I know that Councilmember Gruber said we're not going to go into the situations that Mr. Johnson ended up leaving the department, but he still put it out there. And he said to Google. And then with that, you still get one side. You get that perspective of, you know, the media take on it. The fact is that, you know, it takes a lot of money and resources to appeal a huge system. You can also Google Denver Fire Department, the city of Denver, and institutional racism and discrimination, and you'll find information on that as well. So I really hope that my colleagues can remember the interview that Mr. Johnson had. He was accessible to all of us to talk to. I've reached out also to people who know him. I believe him, and I will not be supporting the effort to remove him from the commission.
Further discussion?
Mayor?
Yes. Mayor.
Councilmember Gardner.
Thanks, Mayor. So a couple of things. First, I want to read from the City of Aurora Employee Handbook. About halfway through that document, it states the intentional or knowing falsification, misrepresentation, or material omission of facts, including but not limited to city insurance documents and other city forms, employment applications, personnel records, time reports, information pertaining to an official investigation, including but not limited to making full disclosure of facts known by the employee to any investigator in an investigation conducted or requested by the city, and lastly, any information related to city business. And why that's important here is as classified by the City of Aurora HR department, civil service commissioners are temporary employees of the city. Per the city handbook, giving false information on an application or any other information related to city business is punishable by termination. Now, you know, in this case, on the application, he actually didn't have to put in that he was retired. He could have put his dates of employment with the Denver Fire Department, but he chose to put in that he was retired. In addition, when questioned during his interview process, again, reiterated that he was retired. So both in writing and verbally, he violated our employee handbook. And why that's important here is a regular city employee, and I use that term in quotes, would be terminated for giving false information on an application. Now, in this case, this individual is a council appointee. So of course it becomes a political process, and the normal rules that apply to all other city employees won't necessarily apply to this person. And I think that's wrong. You know, we're going to probably hear several straw man arguments tonight about how this has to do with council not wanting to give second chances and things like that. And, you know, frankly, those who come forward and state their errors and their mistakes in the past, those that have said, I want a second chance, I've messed up in the past, that's who we should give a second chance to. Recently, there was a potential city council candidate in the Aurora Sentinel who stated, I have a record and I have left that in the past and I want to be different. As Councilmember Marcano stated last week, the individual that applied for the Civil Service Commission had every opportunity to state that he was terminated. He could have given the circumstances around his termination. He could have explained why that termination was wrong, why he was unjustly terminated. and then said why he is going to be different in the future. And he could have explained why his expertise and his past experience is important for the Civil Service Commission going forward. Instead, he chose to list himself as retired. He verbally stated that he was retired. And in fact, in a media interview, indicated that he reached out to an attorney to determine if he could list himself as retired, thus acknowledging that he knew he was being deceptive. This isn't about second chances. This is about an individual who is, by classification from the HR department, a city employee giving false information on an application that would result in termination for every other city employee. But by the mere fact that this is a political process, this individual will most likely keep his role on the commission because of politics. Thanks.
Further discussion.
Yes, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm very troubled by this because I did vote for Mr. Johnson to be on the Civil Service Commission. I had no idea that he had been terminated from the fire department in the city and county of Denver. And I learned about that after we made the appointment. What troubles me is that he did state on his application that he was retired, as previous council members have stated, as well as in the interview. And then in a media report, he actually said that our council knew that he was terminated and that we still appointed him. And I had no knowledge. I think none of my colleagues had any knowledge of that, as was stated. You know, what's really important is this is a Civil Service Commission. It's a really critical position where honesty and transparency and objectivity are very necessary. This position is a commissioner making decisions on hiring people to the police department, to the fire department, and they are looking for some of those attributes that would make them valuable to the city of Aurora, the type of people that we want to work for the city of Aurora. Not only do they make those decisions, but they also participate in disciplinary hearings. And I really doubt that he could be objective in those disciplinary hearings. And even if he could, I think it taints it, because someone who comes forward in a disciplinary hearing will probably, could probably sue the city for a decision made if it was not in their favor. I want to read what was in the termination letter, because this is troubling to me. In his termination letter, the department wrote that he was being cut loose due to your repeated use of racial epithets, your pornographic and sophomoric comments at work, your demeaning treatment of women, your commitment to your personal cell phone over your duty to your crew and citizens, and your inability to tell the truth have no place in the Denver Fire Department or Department of Safety. That is concerning to me because of the falsehoods on the application and in the interview, and then this being such a critical appointment. And I really had hoped that Mr. Johnson would just withdraw his application. And I'm sorry that I, had to read that, because it's I'm sure humiliating, but that has to influence my decision as to who we should put on such an important commission. So I'm sorry, but I will be voting to remove him from the commission.
Versus the adoption of item number 19A.
Mayor?
Councilmember Coombs.
We didn't hear you ask for further discussion, and I think there is.
I just did. Further discussion.
So I have.
Councilmember Coombs.
I think that when we listen to the kinds of things that were written, and even the tone of how they're written, it brings into question for me whether we can really say definitively that those were not, that the termination and the approach to Mr. Johnson's termination was not, what he claims it is, which is character assassination grounded in issues that people had with him, that superiors had with him. And you're right, Councilman Gruber, we don't have the personnel files. So all we have is the media's word and Mr. Johnson's word. And I don't think that we should allow for a person's character to be assassinated and partake in doing so based on only partial information. And so I'm not going to be, and as far as the subject of whether or not he lied, again, he was not asked, did you retire? So I think claiming that he intentionally lied and withheld information is also unfair. So I am not going to support his removal.
Further discussion.
Mayor.
Councilmember Gardner.
It is factually incorrect that we are relying on a media report. We have the several-page termination letter from the Denver Fire Department listing out the reasons for his termination. So to state that the argument in favor of removing him from the Civil Service Commission is based solely on media reports is incorrect. And I think that's really important to point out. This is not based purely on media reports.
Further discussion.
Mayor.
Councilmember Lawson.
Originally, I had an issue with what Mr. Johnson had put on his application that he was retired. I actually contacted, because I had to think this through, I actually contacted Mr. Johnson today before our meeting and had a long discussion with him. And like Councilmember Gruber said, we don't have the personnel file, so there's no prove or defend type of issue there. However, I do believe that there is something with that termination. And again, it depends on what you believe in the letter. I believe Mr. Johnson on some things that he has told me about that particular situation. Listening to him, I think he gave good answers. I don't think you can always believe what the media puts out, because the media is always going to get the high profile stuff out of whatever the issue is without really knowing the in-depth situation that's going on. And again, originally I was going to go for termination of not allowing him on the Civil Service Commission. But after talking to him today and looking at and discussing with him the issues, and he actually addressed my questions very bluntly. And I think as council members, we did not ask him the question. And I mean, that's the onus of however you want to defend your questioning. Were you terminated? Maybe that's a question that we need to address. But I think for me, he has provided, he will be good on the commission. I think when you look at, you can't just say, well, because he did this, and it's not a good thing, but I do think that there's some circumstances behind that particular issue. So I was going towards actually not supporting Mr. Johnson on the commission, but after I had a long conversation with him and really discussed the issues and concerns I had, I will be supporting him continuing on the Civil Service Commission.
Further discussion.
Mayor Dave Gruber.
Councilmember Gruber.
So I just want to point out the irony of what we're discussing here, because it sounds like Mr. Johnson has the votes to stay. We need a supermajority to remove him, and based on the people talking, we don't have that. But again, the irony of this is that we are appointing Mr. Johnson to the Civil Service Commission and giving him the authority to write the reports that were used by the city, and very similar to the process in the city and county of Denver, but to write the reports from the city, like the city and county of Denver, to remove officers or to revoke the appeal of officers and firefighters who have lost their job in the city of Aurora. So what we are saying by not believing, and again, it's not media report, media wrote their reports off of the written reports by the city and county of Denver. But what we are saying here is that we don't believe the fire department, and I've spoken to Mr. Johnson too, and I heard what he had to say. And frankly, I'm a retired Air Force colonel. I've had many people work for me before, and sometimes you have to take what people say with a grain of salt. This board that reviewed him was the Civil Service Commission in Denver. It was the senior leadership of the police department, and to fire someone who has risen to the rank of captain will require the support of the mayor. The mayor won't write the letter or sign the letter, but the mayor will give permission for one of the underlings in the city to sign that letter. So again, the irony of us putting a person on our Civil Service Commission and giving them the authority to write the letters that we are saying we do not believe from the city and county of Denver is well, ironic.
Very Hills.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I think everyone's pretty much covered. I'm also not going to be supporting the removal. From the get-go, I thought that, you know, there was more to this and that it was important to get his side of the story. I didn't know if that was going to be in a study session or with one-on-one conversations. I also had a conversation over the weekend and will not be supporting the removal or the rescinding of the appointment, whatever the terminology is.
Further discussion?
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you. As all of y'all know, I was originally strongly in support of removal. I did have a chance to speak with Harold on a couple of occasions. I've probably spent about an hour and a half with him on the phone over the last, since really this whole thing began. And I have to say, what he told us, or me rather, was compelling, because I have had similar situations with people in my own family, people in my friend groups deal with, and I've had, you know, some questionable things happen on the job in my past as well. I strongly empathize with what he, with his side of the story. So my original biggest gripe was that this is, you know, I hate finding out basically about this stuff through news media. This was not disclosed early on. It's not part of our process, and I think that that's something that maybe we frankly definitely should change so that folks can be a little more forthcoming, especially since our interviews are set up with, you know, in a panel where we each get one question. And it has to be the same question to every applicant. So I think things like this, as we can tell by our unanimous confirmation originally, get through. So I said that to say this. We don't know everything that took place in Denver. We know that that department does have a history with racial discrimination and lack of representation. That's in the news media as well. And I think that he answered the questions that we had for him during the interview very well. In my subsequent discussions with him, he actually provided some great insights into what he thinks we can do to fix the lack of representation in our own civil service. And I am on the side of letting him have a chance to prove us all wrong with our suspicion before we move forward based off of what it effectively boils down to a he said, she said, since we don't have those records. So it was not easy for me to get to this point, but that's where I'm at.
Further discussion?
Mayor Gruber.
Councilmember Gruber.
This is not a he said, she said. This is a letter of termination from the city and county of Denver saying you were fired for the following events. Following that, this member put on his application that he was retired and not terminated, and said he was retired and not terminated. It's nothing close to a he said, she said. We have the facts. The facts are very blatant. It's just if we choose to ignore those facts, then that's what we do.
Mayor.
Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you. The mental gymnastics that I'm hearing tonight are actually really disappointing. You know, several of my colleagues are turning this into a discussion as to whether or not he was justly terminated from the city and county of Denver. And he may very well have been unjustly terminated, but that isn't the point. The point is that he lied on an application. That action would lead to termination for a regular city employee. And I certainly hope by keeping Mr. Johnson on the Civil Service Commission, we aren't opening ourselves up to a lawsuit by past employees that have been terminated for falsifying an application or future employees that are terminated for falsifying an application.
Further discussion?
Mayor.
Councilmember Hiltz.
It's Murillo.
Oh, Murillo, Councilmember Murillo.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, just to echo some of the comments that have been made, I think it's it's a reality that people face in terms of not being able to afford the legal representation to defend themselves in situations like this. And I think that is one of the most compelling concerns I have. You know, I can't speak to, again, all of the personnel files, et cetera, of what transpired. But I do know when it comes to systemic exclusion, systemic racism, when people don't have access to legal representation, they're not able to defend, you know, their character in a legal way. And so, you know, I think that is, it's hard for me to overlook that fact because, you know, those, and the thing is, like, I'm not gonna tell this African-American man how he navigates situations, you know? So for us to try to, I guess, put ourselves in that shoes as though it is such a simple way to navigate decision-making after something like that is on your quote record, you know, it feels inappropriate to me personally. So I don't feel comfortable being hyper-focused on the way that he navigated this in a, besides this news and besides like understanding these systemic barriers, I think we were all very much impressed with the experience that he brought to the table, what he could contribute to our Civil Service Commission moving forward. And I think it'd be interesting to see somebody who has personally faced some of these systemic issues in this role to be part of the decision-making process moving forward. So I don't support removing it. And, you know, I think to Councilmember Marcano's point about our process, I'm sure we all did what we thought was our due diligence and had every opportunity to find out more information, and we all came out empty-handed. And so, you know, to I guess reactively not acknowledge that we also had a role, you know, as council members and not finding out certain information and that there wasn't, you know, there may be a flaw in our own process, I think is something worth uplifting as well. So I won't be supporting the motion.
Mayor?
Further discussion?
Mayor?
I'm sorry, is it Councilmember Combs?
Yeah, so I think I just want to further highlight what Councilmember Murillo mentioned, because Councilmember Gruber said this is the reports he'd be writing are like the ones that were written on him, but realistically they are not, because he did not have the resources to appeal his termination. We spend a lot of time talking about the importance of due process for folks in the civil service, and as someone who did not have access to that due process, Mr. Johnson brings that perspective, that experience of what it would mean to be deprived of that due process. He was deprived of it due to economic circumstances, not due to lack of a process, but that's also an issue. Again, representation really matters and makes a difference. We know it makes a huge difference in these cases. And so for him to not have had that, and for us to now say that we're going to make decisions on the basis of a situation where someone did not get to access due process seems really questionable to me, given all the conversation about the importance of due process that comes from this commission.
Further discussion?
If I could real quick, I just need to deflect on that, because I spoke with Mr. Johnson as well, and I need to point out that a captain in the fire department is represented by the union. So he had union representation if he could have convinced the union to carry that. So as opposed to in Aurora, where you hit a certain rank and you're not supported by the union, captains in the Denver Fire Department are supported by the union, and he could have gotten representation.
Further discussion?
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
I tried talking for
I'm sorry.
three
Okay.
people.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really puzzled by the comments that are being made, because we voted for Mr. Johnson in the appointment. So it was not a race thing it wasn't for me, wasn't for anyone that I think is on this council. We took his interview in good faith. We found out that he lied on the application, he lied in the interview, and then he told the media that we were told that he was terminated, which is another lie. And his termination letter, the 3 points: 1, dangerously compromise the safety of others in the department through the negligent performance of duties. 2, exhibited extremely offensive, lewd, lascivious, and disrespectful communication to staff. And 3, lied to internal affairs about a firefighter's request for representative from her direct supervisor in a meeting that you ordered with her, and then found in violation of 13 departmental rules. I think that if this was all false, he would have had the union represent him in legal action against the city and county of Denver. The city of Aurora, we're sued all the time. I'm certain the city of Denver is sued all the time. So I think there was, if there was legitimate reason to not be terminated, I truly believe that he would have had legal representation, whether it be from the union or, you know, someone that would have taken up his case. And we're putting someone on the Civil Service Commission that needs to have good character, great character. And I'm afraid we're making a mistake.
Mayor?
I'm sorry, is it Councilmember Johnston? Councilmember Johnston.
Thank you. You know, the issues are continuing to bring up. So again, because I talked to him in depth and asked questions, I got more information. Denver Fire Department management is on their union, runs their union. Their management does. So literally, Mr. Johnson had management who wanted to have him off of Denver Fire Department, also be the same entity and person that's on the union. So no, he didn't. The union isn't always fair. I love my unions, but they're not always fair. And there have been issues racially. And then the makeup with management on it, there's a lot around this. And that's why it's important to talk to him about that. He also never went, as Councilmember Coombs said, talked about due process. He never went to the Civil Service Commission in the city of Denver. That was also mentioned. So we can keep, as soon as things are continuing to bring up about the allegations and all that, I will continue to raise my hand because I talked to him and I got that information. Thank you.
Mayor.
I think everything's been said, but not everybody said it. Who's next? I'm sorry.
Councilmember Murillo.
Councilmember Murillo.
Well, since I have the privilege of repeating and seconding what other people have said, I think Councilmember Johnston kind of beat me to the punch in having conversation and just scratching the surface a little bit about what has happened. The makeup of our union versus the makeup of the union in Denver is wholly different, and that power dynamic changes that structure. And so again, back to systems, back to how those systems play out in decision making. That is a flaw in this scenario. And so it's, you know, I don't think it's okay for us to draw that same conclusion, you know, regardless of, you know, or I guess irregardless of that fact. So we have to acknowledge that.
Berzins?
Councilmember Berzins.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all saying that you talked to Mr. Johnson, but you know, he's the one that we're talking about tonight to possibly remove. Did any of you go to the Denver people that worked with him and ask them what the story was? Why did this happen? Or did everybody just talk to Mr. Johnson? Did you get the other side of the coin? I haven't heard anybody say that you talked to Denver. So I just want to bring that up. I am concerned about the other commissioners. How are they going to handle this? If they know that a fellow new commissioner wasn't quite honest on his application and fought this so hard to stay on, I'm concerned that they're going to have an issue with that, and then we're going to have more vacancies. I've been thinking about that. What would I do in that position? Because they we have some wonderful people on the commission that have been straight up with us, and now we have a questionable application. So I think we need to think about that.
Further discussion. Councilmember Coombs.
So I did receive some information from folks saying, you know, from Denver that they felt that Mr. Johnson was hard to work with. But again, I think we have to question what role does implicit bias play in those types of assessments that we make of people. And so nothing that I heard convinced me that Mr. Johnson was wrong in what he shared with me in the conversations that I had with him. And so, yeah, for me, yes, I got information and I felt weighing that information that what Mr. Johnson was bringing forward was correct. And I hope that our commissioners are willing to work with him. I also want to point out that he did not say, we had a long conversation. He did not say, I'm fighting to stay on and I have to get this. He said, you know, if it's going to make it harder for you all, then I don't want you to prioritize me over making sure that things are working well. So he actually did explicitly express to me that if it was going to be a major problem, that he would be willing to just step back. But I don't think we should, again, be participating in what may be the assassination of someone's character. And certainly numerous times colleagues on this call have said he has a bad character. And I think it's really unfair and unreasonable for us to be trying to make that assessment and that attribution.
Further discussion.
Mayor, I just have to respond to that too. So I said, when I spoke with him, I asked him about that. I said that this could be very embarrassing for you tonight. We're going to be presenting information from the city and county of Denver. None of it is flattering. And, you know, if you choose to resign, then this will simply go away and we won't talk about it. And he said, council member, I got 4 votes. He said, you can do what you want. You can't get rid of me. I got 4 votes.
Further discussion. But seeing that, let me just say that he's absolutely unqualified for this position, and somebody who has virtually no integrity. Maybe they can do a great sales job over the phone with some of the members here, but they have no integrity. And now you're believing them now, choose to believe them now, but they're going to be making decisions over the careers, first of all, whether or not people get into police and fire, and second, if they're able to stay in for disciplinary reasons. And let me tell you, I think it takes an act of God to get rid of somebody in police and fire in a unionized organization, whether it's Denver or Aurora. With that said, I'd urge a yes vote. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Kaufman.
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs.
No.
Councilmember Berzins.
Yes.
Councilmember Marcano.
No.
Councilmember Hiltz.
No.
Councilmember Murillo.
No.
Councilmember Johnston.
No.
Councilmember Gruber.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson.
No.
Councilmember Gardner.
Yes.
There's 5 yeses and the motion does not pass.
Invited to be heard.
Mayor, there is nobody in the lineup for public invited to be heard.
A report by the mayor. I just want to say in terms of the appointment process for civil service commissioners, I think we should rely on the commission to do do the interviews and make recommendations to the council, because that's good. They're going to be determining who they're going to be working with, and I think they're best qualified to do it, particularly based on what we've just seen tonight. There was an incident last night in I-225 where 600 vehicles, according to the Aurora Police Department, had blocked access to the to I-220 southbound traffic on I-225 between Alameda and Colfax for the purpose of conducting races. First of all, let me just say that I don't understand how the police department didn't know this was going to happen in the first place and want to hear from them directly because they monitor social media. And if you're going to have 600 vehicles collected at a certain point at a certain time, there's going to be a lot of chatter on social media. And how do we miss that? And how do we prevent this from happening again? And so reports by Councilmember Lawson.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to say happy International Women's Day to all my colleagues on council and to all the women who have inspired me and who are making things happen in their communities in every aspect. So for my Pfizer update, federal update, the U.S. Senate passed the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan COVID-19 relief package over the weekend, and the U.S. House plans a floor vote to pass the amended version on Tuesday. The $1,400 stimulus checks could begin to hit bank accounts within days. The state update. Last week, state legislators faced deadlines to introduce bills. However, late bills are expected. Additional bills related to education, transportation, police, reform, and other topics could still be introduced in the coming weeks. As far as RTD Reimagine, we have our first reconvening meeting on March 11th. The NLC Congressional City, the Transportation Committee had a meeting yesterday to basically kind of go over priorities and discussions about how we want to advocate at Capitol Hill on transportation issues. My next thing is the Civic Engagement Academy. My 7th class will begin on April 8th. Anyone who wants to be a part of the 7th Academy, please go to our Citizens Academy. There, I think that is all I have as far as my reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lawson. Councilmember Gruber.
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Hiltz.
Thank you. I don't have anything to report, but I did want to say happy International Women's Day. And also, I did not time today's menstrual care products vote with this, but I do think that is pretty cool that they lined up. But I also, in that vein, want to make sure that it is very clear that when we are talking about International Women's Day and the menstrual care products, that we are going beyond the definition of women in the traditional sense to include all who are menstruating in that tax exemption and include both the trans and non-binary community in that. And it just, today always reminds me of when I ran and it was me and 7 men on the ballot. And so gives me a little smile when I think about that a couple of years ago, especially since I will not be doing it again this year. So thank you very much for the time.
Councilmember Gardner. Councilmember Murillo.
Thank you, Mayor. My town hall for the month is Thursday, the 25th at 6 p.m. on WebEx. And then a quick RTD accountability update. Most of our focus in the beginning of this process was to give legislative recommendations. We have been working on with the transportation co-chairs and with different stakeholders to put forward a bill. House Bill 1186 of this session it has a bill number, and so we'll be going through the process of hopefully pushing it forward. And I know that we have our own process through Pfizer, and that Luke has been very involved in the process on the RTD Accountability Committee. So I know he's keeping the committee apprised of the progress there. So I'm looking forward to see if we can, push for more regional partnerships, if we can give RTD some flexibility. There's a couple of things that didn't make it into the final bill kind of through that stakeholdering process that I think we might want to revisit later down the line, specifically on local land use. And I think specifically because it was kind of too broad to, incorporate all of the different municipalities and their needs. So at least through the city of Aurora, kind of hopefully exploring some of the changes that weren't incorporated into that final bill. And happy International Women's Day.
Councilmember Johnston.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say I had a great town hall. If any of you are looking for a topic, we had Victor Rochelle, Tom McMimney. We had the overview on all the different roads, the transportation plans. A lot obviously is happening in Ward 2. They tailored it for that. I had a lot of interested constituents. We talked about our repavement schedule, our maintenance, how that all works, and my constituents just ate it up. So I really want to thank staff, Cindy Collop, all of the folks who are involved in that presentation. Again, my town halls are the first Thursday of the month at 6:30. So hoping you can join us then, and happy Women's Day for those who are celebrating. And it's been a great day so far, and hope to have a good week. Thanks.
Councilmember Berzins.
Thank you. Just want to say to Ward 3 that we do have our monthly meeting Wednesday night at 6:30, and it will be virtual, so you can find how to log in on the city webpage, and hope to see you there. Thank you.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next Ward 4 meeting is going to be this Wednesday, March 10th at 6:30 p.m. We're going to be joined by City Manager Jim Twombly for an update on the state of the city, and by Ralph Charlip, who chairs the city's Veterans Affairs Commission, for an update on their goals for the year and how our residents can get involved. And with that, happy Women's Day.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I wanted to say is that obviously our process for appointing to Civil Service Commission is broken. I know that other boards and commissions, we certainly take recommendations from them. I think at this point, because we do need to do our due diligence, and we have over 20 boards and commissions, we certainly do not have the time as a part-time council that works full-time to go into all the background of every single person that interviews or for positions. So I would suggest that we have human resources do the due diligence for us on the back end before we are given those applications and before we interview.
Well,
Mayor, do I get to make a report?
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Coombs, missed you. Sorry about that.
You're good, no worries. So first of all, happy International Women's Day. I do want to agree that there is a need for changes to boards and commissions applications. I actually had already asked before this incident even occurred that we have questions about conflicts of interest, that we have some additional supplemental questions per board and commission for whatever is appropriate to that particular board and commission. And I think looking at other types of questions, if people want to know if someone's ever been terminated and why on either particular boards and commissions or all boards and commissions, then that's a question we can ask. But I had already believed before this incident that that was something that we needed. And it's actually something that I had already raised in our committee that deals with boards and commissions. So I know that will be coming forward. And when we get that on the agenda, we'll make sure all of council knows so that whatever issues folks want to include can be included there. And then as for my reports for my outside boards, DRCOG work session, we discussed ways that we can regionally address climate and steps that DRCOG is taking, as well as CDOT came and gave a presentation about what they're doing to try to address climate change in a regional way. No report for Visit Aurora, Cherry Creek Basin Water Quality Authority. Mile High Behavioral Healthcare had their Rocket Socket event where they were able to collect and prepare toiletry packs and socks for our unhoused neighbors. And then finally, my meetings, we just had a work meeting this last Wednesday. They're the first Wednesday of the month at 6:30 p.m. Thank you.
Everybody, and happy International Women's Day. Meeting adjourned.
Have a good night.